I can say that confidently, as founder of the Earthshot Prize, I'm lucky enough to meet the innovators and changemakers who are working on the most exciting ideas and initiatives.
It was intended to be a peaceful, dignified gathering, a secret royal affair away from the flashing cameras, shouting headlines, and constant scrutiny. However, behind the gilded gates of Windsor Castle, the fundamental foundation of the monarchy was about to shake. What began as an awkward quiet between two of the royal family's most senior ladies turned into an explosive, emotional argument that has left insiders stunned. And in the center of it all, Princess Anne and Queen Camilla, two ladies who have never truly seen eye to eye, finally collided in an outburst that the palace could not contain. But no one, not even the most experienced royal observers, anticipated what happened next. Prince William, the heir, future king, and symbol of stability for a tired nation, made a move that would forever alter the Windsor power structure. In a decision that astonished the royal family and the British establishment, William reportedly slapped a lifetime ban on Queen Camilla, effectively exiling her from any royal public duties following her latest feud with his aunt, Princess Anne. This is more than just a family drama. It is a succession-level split, and the monarchy may never be the same again. According to royal sources, Anne and Camilla's feud had been simmering for years, characterized by sideways looks, cold words, and barely veiled hatred. However, the breaking point occurred during what was supposed to be a typical family meeting. Camilla's dismissive, cutting comment apparently triggered Anne's renowned fury. No royal aide will repeat the words that were exchanged. Chairs were almost knocked over, and the room, which had once been meticulously governed by royal protocol, devolved into complete pandemonium. But while King Charles remained stuck, divided between love and allegiance, William acted, and he didn't do it as a son. It was as the future king. Camilla's indefinite suspension from public representation of the crown sends a clear message. There are lines in the royal family that even the queen cannot cross. Insulting the most respected royal alive, Princess Anne, can launch a revolution rather than just a dispute. This is the complete narrative of the royal fight that altered everything. The royal family frequently presents a cohesive front to the world, smiling on balconies, waving during parades, and displaying polished harmony at every public occasion. But behind the surface is a tangled web of rivalries, loyalties, and centuries-old survival instincts. And no quarrel has lasted longer or pierced deeper than the one between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla, a rivalry so subtle but potent that insiders have long predicted it will blow. It now has. The origins of this secret struggle date back decades, even before Camilla became queen. According to those close to the palace, Anne never approved of Camilla's presence in the royal sphere, not when she was Charles' mistress, not after she married him, and certainly not when she was appointed queen consort. Anne, known for being outspoken and duty-bound, reportedly saw Camilla as someone who slipped through the side door of history, avoiding the obligations of royal life while receiving the benefits. According to a royal insider, Anne believes in earning your place. Camilla simply waited for hers. Their connection was never warm. In reality, their early contacts were characterized by modest but noticeable power moves. Anne would reportedly avoid eye contact with Camilla at events, offer curt responses when asked about her privately, and was even overheard once calling her the wrong woman with the wrong timing. Camilla, on the other hand, returned the favor in quieter ways, leaking suggestions through her press allies that Anne was outdated, cold, and overly traditional. The tension was always simmering, but never fully ignited. Until now. The exact cause of the final outburst is still unknown, but many palace insiders confirm Camilla's tone and attitude during a Windsor family strategy conference. The conference was intended to explore public engagements, legacy planning, and future roles for younger royals. However, instead of diplomacy, witnesses claimed Camilla dismissed Anne's relevance, referring to her itinerary as old-world appearances no one really notices. Anne, who has spent almost 5 decades in royal service, making more engagements than almost any other monarch in history, took the criticism seriously. Camilla didn't simply undercut her calendar, one assistant observed. She questioned her entire position in the royal order. That's something Anne would never let go. According to sources, Anne stepped up, eyes blazing, and openly addressed Camilla for the first time in decades. A verbal battle ensued, unlike anything witnessed in the royal family since Diana's broadcast remarks. Anne allegedly accused Camilla of cloaking herself in legitimacy while knowing full well the damage she caused. Camilla retaliated, calling Anne impossible to modernize with. The room reportedly fell silent as Princess Anne slammed her hand against the table and declared, "You may be queen, but you will never outrank duty. Not while I am breathing." It was a moment that had been building for decades. 2 women representing completely different ideas of the monarchy colliding in full public view. And, as the rest of the family attempted to de-escalate, William remained motionless. He did not defend his stepmother. He did not reprimand his aunt. He merely watched and listened. By the end of the day, the decision would be his. The conflict between Anne and Camilla is about more than just personal dislike. It's a war of 2 ideologies. Camilla represents comfort, peaceful recovery, and gentle influence. Anne represents discipline, sacrifice, and steel-willed tradition. Only one vision could withstand the current storm raging against the monarchy. Anne left the room with her head held high. Camilla? She wouldn't be allowed back in for a very long time. This was no longer the Cold War. It was an open rebellion, and Prince William was going to take sides. It was not intended to be a battle room. The vast drawing room at Windsor Castle, draped in royal reds and tapestries ancient than Parliament, was intended to be a neutral zone where senior royals might meet together and quietly plan the future of a broken monarchy. But that afternoon, the polished stillness broke. Because what occurred behind those gilded doors was not a meeting. It was a reckoning. The event was organized around a clear goal: to synchronize the royal family's next moves. With King Charles's health causing new concerns and William and Kate poised to take on more public responsibilities, the palace required unity. Instead, it experienced the royal equivalent of a full-fledged revolt. According to multiple insiders, Camilla came late, acting disdainful and impatient, a move that Princess Anne noticed, since she arrived early with notes in hand and eager to get down to work. Camilla entered, and the air altered. She came in like the room owed her something, a royal staff member subsequently revealed. Anne was already seething. According to first-hand reports, the first tension rose swiftly when Princess Anne presented her vision for a scaled-back, duty-first monarchy, one that emphasized public service, cost-cutting, and greater vetting of those holding royal titles. Anne, ever the pragmatist, proposed re-evaluating certain royal patronages and even advised Camilla to minimize her public appearances to allow Kate to take the lead. It was a bold suggestion. Camilla saw it as a clear insult. "You don't get to decide who's royal and who's not, Anne," Camilla reportedly yelled, loud enough to halt discussions across the room. "You've spent your life hiding behind duty because you've never had the public on your side." The room froze. Anne stood up. "I don't need popularity," she shot back. "I have service, and you had none until you married your way in." That line, which no one dared say aloud in public, finally came out, and it sparked a match. According to family sources, Camilla completely lost her composure. She jumped up, slapped her handbag on the table, and allegedly accused Anne of sabotaging her place in the family and making her life hell from the beginning. The two women allegedly yelled over each other in an outburst of decades-long animosity. But the most shocking part was not the shouting. It was what happened next. In a moment described by one insider as the snap heard round the palace, Camilla reportedly turned to William, who sat between them, mute, hands clenched, and demanded he intervene. "Will you just sit there?" she exclaimed. "Tell your aunt to back down." But William did not flinch. Instead, he stated this: "No, she is right." Witnesses said Camilla's face became pale. William had recently publicly sided with Anne against the Queen Consort. That single sentence shattered Camilla's already frail foundation. Because despite her new titles and ceremonial appearances, it was William's approbation that counted most in this moment. He represents the future, and the crown will rest on his head. His word was the signal, the indication that Camilla had gone too far. After that, the meeting ended. Camilla stormed away, refusing to engage with journalists, aides, or Charles for the next 48 hours. Princess Anne returned to her chambers, stone-faced but victorious, not smug, just determined. She had not wanted to fight, but once Camilla drew the first blood, she had no intention of backing down. Behind the scenes, senior aides immediately began drafting contingency documents, unsure how to spin what had just occurred. But the truth was already known. The monarchy had divided, not due to scandal or gossip, but due to a conflict between two ladies who could no longer share the same royal room. And William? He had made a choice. The Queen Consort had just lost the future king's trust, and with it, the immunity that had hitherto shielded her from consequences. What came next was unprecedented. Not since the 1936 abdication crisis had the monarchy suffered such a direct internal blow delivered so quickly and from inside. And this time, history was made by someone other than the reigning king. Prince William was the heir, the aspiring statesman, and now the enforcer. Within 72 hours of Camilla and Princess Anne's violent argument, official palace channels began issuing tightly worded remarks about reorganizing royal responsibilities and streamlining ceremonial roles. However, the language used behind the scenes was anything but diplomatic. William had made a choice to remove Camilla from active royal activities, permanently. According to sources close to Kensington Palace, the Prince of Wales held a private meeting with senior advisors, legal counsel, and members of the Privy Council to outline what would soon be known as the Royal Conduct Protocol, a new standard for behavior, accountability, and service expected of all royals, regardless of rank or title. Despite not being a reigning monarch, William used his constitutional authority as future king, as well as his public mandate. According to aides, he emphasized the importance of a modern monarchy rooted in respect, unity, and duty, not ego, entitlement, or division. Camilla had crossed the boundary, and there were consequences. The ensuing edict was issued not as a recommendation, but as a legitimate royal decree endorsed by William's advisory committee and covertly supported by Anne, Edward, and a faction of Parliament. What are the terms? Camilla would no longer serve as an official representative of the crown, effective immediately. She would be deprived of major patronages, including her position as president of the National Osteoporosis Society and many honorary military ranks. She would be barred from attending future state visits, coronation preparation committees, and royal family briefings. Perhaps most symbolically, she would no longer be referred to as Queen Consort in official palace papers, a subtle erasure from the firm's inner workings. Although Charles theoretically had the right to reverse such a decision, insiders confirmed that he was taken aback by his son's declaration. The king's legal team reportedly encouraged him not to intervene, as he was still recovering from rising health issues and was wary of more public disgrace. Any attempt to overthrow William, they said, would spark constitutional instability and could jeopardize public support for the monarchy. Camilla received the news like a guillotine. One former staffer admitted she refused to believe it was real at first, expecting William's decision to be reversed after a few days of indignation and family reconciliation. However, by the end of the week, her security detail had been reduced. Her name was removed from palace scheduling memoranda. Her portrait, which had been commissioned for display in a new Buckingham Palace gallery, was discreetly removed. She wasn't simply prohibited from performing her duties, the aide explained. She was being erased. This was an exile in real time. To the general public, the move was portrayed as a necessary modernization, a course correction to restore harmony within the monarchy. But among insiders, the truth was stark and biting. Camilla's reign has just been destroyed by a single edict issued by Prince William. And unlike other compromises, this one was non-negotiable. Not this time. The Queen Consort, long untouchable, was now deprived of power, not by Parliament or the press, but by the man who would soon wear the throne. It was over. Not during a scandal, not using a scandal sheet, but with a signature. When the dust settled and the royal court fell into stunned, nervous silence, Princess Anne did not move. In fact, she was the one who stepped forward. While the palace rushed to manage headlines and Prince Charles apparently went into seclusion, the Princess Royal stood resolute, her back straight and her countenance unreadable, embodying the royal motto, "Never complain, never explain." But behind the scenes, Anne's message was clear and cutting. "My loyalty," she informed a surprised gathering of top courtiers, "is to the crown, not the consort." It was not a slip of the tongue. It was a declaration. After years of holding her tongue, managing tensions behind closed doors, and silently protecting the Queen's legacy from Camilla's influence, Anne had reached her limit. The violent encounter, purportedly provoked by Camilla's dismissive, even mocking tone towards the late Queen Elizabeth's ceremonial standards, was more than just a personal affront. Anne saw it as a disrespect to the monarchy, and this time, Anne's support came from more than simply conviction. She had William's ear, the nation's sympathies, and the quiet backing of Edward and Sophie, who had grown tired of Camilla's courtier-fueled power struggles. More importantly, she had history to her advantage. Anne had served longer, more faithfully, and with fewer scandals than virtually any other living monarch, and she had done so with the steadfast support of her late mother, the Queen. She saw the crown as a service, a former royal official stated. Camilla sees it as status. Anne was not going to let that rot linger indefinitely. According to sources close to Anne, her reaction to William's decision was stoic, but uncompromising. She didn't cheer or gloat. Instead, she swiftly resumed her duties, visiting a veterans' home in York and giving an agricultural charity banquet within 48 hours of the news emerging. But behind closed doors, Anne made it clear there would be no reconciliation. When Charles made a private appeal, which sources claim was more of a plea than a peace offering, Anne supposedly responded with a single sentence: "If your heart must choose between her and the crown, then you've already chosen wrong." It was, in a sense, the final echo of Queen Elizabeth's personal attitude. For Anne, the institution came first, always. Not feelings, not in marriages, not fragile egos draped in silk titles. The public took note. as media outlets broadcast footage of Anne's unrelenting dedication, riding horseback in heavy rain during the Jubilee, keeping guard outside her mother's coffin, shaking hands with injured soldiers, her popularity soared. Newspapers praised her as the spine of the monarchy, while social media labeled her the real queen. In reality, Anne never desired the spotlight, but when duty demanded it, she spoke. And when the monarchy itself needed protecting, she drew a line and held it. Camilla may have worn the crown, but Anne has always worn armor. And this time, as conflict erupted in Buckingham, the Princess Royal stood firm and walked away unscathed. For decades, King Charles had carefully balanced his realm, his image, and his family. But the events of that fateful week shattered the illusion completely. After Prince William signed the royal edict, barring Camilla from formal royal responsibilities and appearances, the king was claimed to be devastated beyond measure. Not just because of the scandal, but because it pushed him into the one position he had spent his whole reign avoiding, choosing between the lady he loved and the son who would succeed him. Insiders at Clarence House reported the king as visibly shaken when he received the news in the early morning hours. Aides were reportedly terminated, and Charles canceled 2 official engagements on the same day, the first time he had done so without reason since the Queen died. He looked like a broken man, one courtier revealed, like he'd just watched his entire world unravel. For years, Charles had fought tooth and nail to establish Camilla's status within the monarchy. From carefully planned public appearances to lobbying for her recognition as queen consort, he had defied convention, the press, and even his own mother's unspoken wishes. However, William's decision demolished Camilla's idea that her position was ever genuinely safe, and more painfully, it clearly affirmed the next generation's power. Charles reportedly pleaded with William in a secret meeting in Sandringham 2 days after the announcement. The mood was frigid, according to all accounts. "She's your stepmother," Charles allegedly stated, his voice shaking. "She is not my queen," William answered, "and you know what she said to Anne." The animosity between father and son, which had been building for years due to divergent visions for the monarchy, flared up. According to sources, no deal was made, and Charles departed the meeting feeling emotionally gutted. Behind palace gates, staff murmured of the king roaming alone across the gardens late at night. A man torn between past love and future responsibilities. A ruler who had finally run out of ways to postpone the inevitable, because despite Charles's efforts to safeguard Camilla's legacy, it was now clear. William had the nation's support, Anne possessed the crown's moral weight, and Charles? He was now merely a man, a king without authority in his own court. The monarchy had moved on, and the king had been left behind. If there was any dispute about where public loyalty rested in the aftermath of Camilla's royal collapse, the British people's reaction made it crystal clear. The tide had shifted permanently. Within hours following Prince William's explicit ban on Camilla from all future royal obligations, social media erupted in a maelstrom of comments. The hashtags #StandWithAnne and #FutureKingWilliam topped trending lists, not only in the UK, but throughout the Commonwealth. From London to Sydney, Edinburgh to Ottawa, the public had chosen their side. Since the Queen died, Princess Anne has served as the monarchy's rock. "She deserves better than Camilla's disrespect," said one popular post, which was shared over 250,000 times in 48 hours. Others praised William's conduct as those of a real future king, firm, resolute, and consistent with the public's moral compass. Many saw his move as a stark contrast to Charles' long, convoluted efforts to elevate Camilla, despite years of public discomfort. "It should have been Anne and William all along. They're the only ones who act honorably," another person remarked. "The Queen would be proud." Tabloids, which have usually been torn between palace allegiance and public interest, adopted a rare unifying tone. The Daily Mirror featured a strong front page. William draws the line. Crown comes before Camilla. While the Times declared, Anne restores dignity to the throne. Even longtime royal skeptics found themselves supporting the siblings. Anne's unshakable devotion to duty, along with William's protective instincts, particularly in defense of Princess Charlotte and the younger royals, struck a chord with a public tired of scandal and palace turmoil. Protests were also rumored outside Clarence House, albeit peaceful vigils with banners reading, "Thank you, Anne," and "William, you have our trust." Meanwhile, Camilla's supporters, who had previously been vociferous, went silent. Editorials that had previously hailed her modern queenly grace either issued retractions or quietly switched their focus. Despite its old roots, the monarchy had once again transformed in response to popular demand. And at this moment, the people had spoken. Camilla's time was up. Anne was the anchor. William represented the future. The message resonated through the nation's streets, TVs, and headlines. The crown belongs to those who honor it, not those who manipulate it. For once, the public's voice and the royal choice were perfectly aligned. It left no room for Camilla to return. Few moments in the epic, centuries-old saga of Britain's monarchy have had the weight and finality of Prince William's lifetime ban on Camilla. It was more than just punishment. It was a declaration not only from a future king, but from a generation that refused to allow scandal, vanity, and unrestrained ambition to destabilize the monarchy. What started as whispers of friction between Camilla and Princess Anne escalated into a defining royal split. But from the confusion came insight. William's daring decision to support Anne, and more crucially, the ideals championed by the late Queen Elizabeth II, marked a turning point in the crown's history. Camilla's expulsion was not based on a single fight. It was the result of years of anxiety, shattered trust, and silent resentment. For years, she had been propelled ahead, protected by Charles's fondness and the palace's public relations machine. But no amount of spin could shelter her from this reckoning, which came from within the House of Windsor rather than the media or the general public. Anne, as always, remained firm, a figure of determination who wielded her mother's history like a shield. And William? He proved he was ready, prepared to safeguard the institution, prepared to make hard decisions, prepared to enter into the shadows cast by the throne. William did more than just clean house by permanently diminishing Camilla's influence. He also restored the balance. He reminded the nation that royalty isn't about titles or picture opportunities. It's all about service, commitment, and integrity. The monarchy may have broken at this point, but it has also remade itself, shedding the weight of old controversies and emerging with a sharper edge, a clearer voice, and a stronger spine. And the people? They saw it as a corrective rather than a scandal, a reset, a proper route set by those who will lead the monarchy into the future. Camilla may still bear the title of Queen Consort on paper, but in the hearts of the nation, her reign has come to an end, forever.